Hey, welcome back. It's day 45. And as you recall, yesterday we left with the cliffhanger of that body cam. Ooh, look at that. I just deleted it. Um, the question is, have I gone back and deleted it earlier? Because I didn't like, I don't know what it made me think about it. Well, I do know what I thought about it. Obviously, one of the reasons they wouldn't have body cams is because then if Rachel had one and we were seeing the kids, Larry and Lexi, then they could have ID'd them long ago, and that was supposedly one of the reasons they were there. So this is one of those things. I hate to admit it. I dreamed up while I was writing and didn't really think through the bigger picture and the ramifications or the logic. And so sometimes when you do that, you do anything you can to save it and make it work, or B, you don't even think about it and then you read it back and you go, well, that doesn't make any sense, which I think is what happened here. So let's see what I'm doing here. I'm going back and doing some work on this, and Holly is talking to Paul, and Paul is sort of not spilling his guts, but telling her what's going on. All right. Okay, so yeah, I got rid of the body cam there, so they don't know what's going on inside. And obviously, the reason the FBI set this up was kind of to pacify Holly / Paul. And maybe they do want the kids to, well, no, because they don't know the kids are going to be there. Maybe they figure Holly could ID them if that's important. But the main reason is, frankly, just to kind of make it cool and dramatic, and the idea that at some point maybe Gary and Abby are going to see what's going on. But right now it's just kind of a big tease, a big nothing, because all they see is the outside of this building from 4 different angles. So, but again, it was sort of a courtesy that the FBI was giving to the U.S. Marshals via Holly, just to say, hey, we're letting you in on this. And by that we mean we're showing you kind of where we believe is the stuff going on. All right. Now, where are we? So the feds have a man inside the lab running the DNA test. If Rachel lies, they'll get out the girl ASAP. So that was sort of a key line back in the day, and it still is, if in fact the feds really do have a person in there. So Paul has said all this, and Holly has deduced that the FBI staged a kidnapping. And I don't know, what am I doing here? Don't pay attention to that. That was a slow motion of water in a drinking fountain for a project at work. So, yeah, so this gets a little bit dicey there, because if FBI staged the kidnapping and transported them up there, and then, like she says, who's holding them in the building? Because as you recall, as we all recall, those 2 guys were dead, or apparently dead, that they found in the woods at the Eagle Creek escape, or whatever it's called. I've got Holly. Oh, I'm cutting in between scenes. And Rachel is saying, and this isn't changed from the last time through, that she doesn't know if who those people were, or who's doing what, basically. It's just crazy. I mean, not in a good way, but it's crazy how I seem to just jump around so much. This is a very, very minor rewrite of this whole thing of, again, the friction between Holly and Gary. And Abby has found this place. It's 1.5 miles away. The problem is, well, 2.5 miles, whatever. The problem is that this is just not paying off, right? Because um, as Abby just said there, what now? And maybe Gary had that line before, but that's exactly, I think, what I ran into. Because A, is she going to call Hogan and see if she can talk him into going? You know, she's not going to jump into a cab or rent a car or call an Uber, and they're not going to walk 2.5 miles, which I think is part of the reason I switched from 1.5 miles to 2.5. I got a lot of looks in there. He looks at Gary expecting a snarky comment, and he replies with the innocent "who me" look. I not loving that. So I kind of trapped myself, and I'm thinking, well, what is Holly going to do? And then we've got the I could probably split a pizza, which mirrors Larry's line, which unfortunately was not the whole point of that, but I thought was pretty clever. Clever is sometimes good, clever is sometimes your worst enemy. Pearls of wisdom, write it down. So now they're having that conversation again, Abby and Gary, about taking the bullet, which I think, I think is something that reasonably could come up. And I try to, obviously Gary is evading his answer because he doesn't know, and he finally ends like with "I think I would," and then of course Holly comes in with the scene-saving line. As I've said, if you're getting stuck, just have something crazy happen, and then just let it hang out there. And then we've got this "I can't not ever see him again," which of course is a double negative, but that's because he's kind of fumbling over his words, which I think would be typical for this sort of situation. Feels like the level of my microphone should be a little higher. I'm just not talking loud enough. All right. And then Gary, "why didn't I go with her?" He's sort of breaking down, which, you know, those kind of scenes or those bits are sometimes hard to write because you say, is it going to be melodramatic? Is it going to be over the top? Until you see someone acting it. And that's why I haven't talked much about table reads. Should I talk about table reads? Not literally table reads, but sometimes I'll read the dialogue out loud, or the screenwriting program, Movie Magic, does have a thing where you can have like electronic voices and you can assign different kind of, male, female, and different voices, but it's not great by any means, but it does help. If it really helps for spell checking, I found, and it somewhat helps for dialogue. But anyways, table reads are awesome because you get to hear characters, so to speak, actors speaking the dialogue, and I can tell, and you can tell too, I'm sure, if you've got a clunker on your hands pretty quickly. And that could be a clunker scene. It could be a clunker, back and forth. It could be a clunker screenplay, in which case that's unfortunate. But what was my point there? Oh, it was about if you have an emotional scene and if you do have a table read and a good actor who's working on it, actress, I still call them actors and actresses, you will know if it could possibly work. And if it can, awesome. If it can't, then give it some thought. I seem to have come to a stop here in my writing. Agent Hogan picked her up a few minutes ago. You owe me. So, yeah, so he was talking to Paul about that. And I don't know. I assume I liked that at the time. I'm not super wild about it in retrospect, again, about 9 weeks later. We'll see what happens. And then, we get Hogan and Holly start to kind of build not a relationship, a repertoire, I think that's the word. So I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm setting up the fact that Holly's going to leave with Paul, or with Hogan. Oh my goodness, look at this. I hope you can keep up with what I'm reading. writing. And obviously, when I sped it up 5 times, so these days would go quicker, I didn't really think about the times when I was just going flip, 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 flip back and forth. But I mean, this kind of stuff you can keep up with. And we've got that line of without even getting my uniform dirty, which I still like, that kind of idea behind it, and you're welcome. But the whole illusion and the metaphors and all that, we'll see if that works. Okay, so they've just wiped out the FBI people again. Not, I mean, very few changes, because basically this part has to happen. Doesn't need much dialogue. And now they're kind of in panic mode. Noble is saying that they've got people coming in, and Holly wants to do something proactive. She's tired of not doing something proactive, which again, we're on page 77. So that means we're getting toward the all is lost. And I think I've said before that, you know, all those FBI people getting wiped out sort of is all at lost. The problem is that it doesn't directly relate to Holly. It's not her all is lost. And I think I've sort of come to realize that, and I'm thinking, no spoilers, but maybe in a more recent draft, I will try to address that situation. So now they're discussing whether they're going to go do something, sorry for the yawn, or if they're just going to kind of hold back. And then Noble calls Paul and is basically saying, get your girl in line. So, you know, they've got the 2 choppers inbound, and so they're getting in reinforcements. Although, well, I do still have that line about the tracker. She turned it off, but still she's got the tracker isn't like a body cam. So this is under the pretense or whatever that Holly is working with the FBI, right? Of course, she could be double-crossing them because she's turned off the tracker. We'll see if that line, I still like that. Who knows who, or you know who else thinks it's cute when twins dress alike? No one. And I think I've addressed this before when Abby says, I'm sure she has her reasons, and Gary says, I can't wait to hear them. Obviously, that implies he hasn't figured out or doesn't really have any clue or thought of why she might be doing this. And I don't know that that's entirely true. Can we all have our phones back? Rachel's reminding them to behave. Larry spills the fallacy as far as, well, Clyde and Ace don't know that is Rachel possibly working with the FBI. Another day's come to an end. I'm realizing this is kind of a lot of repetition at this point, so maybe I was going to say I could tell you where to skip ahead to get some more juicy stuff, but it's all juicy, right? Day 45 has come to an end on a screenwriter's journey. Thank you for joining me. I'll say it for the millionth time. I hope that if you're not necessarily young, but inexperienced novice screenwriter, or maybe someone who has never written a script and never even thinks they're going to write a script or a novel or even a poem or even a haiku, just to say, what is the process? What goes through your mind, if anything? So you can see what's been going through my mind for 45 days. Will there be 45 more? Perish the thought. Will there be 10 more? Nobody knows except me. And I'll give you another clue tomorrow on a screenwriter's journey.